Once upon a time, a man had 2 sons. The younger of the 2 came to him one day and said, "Father, I want my share of the inheritance." Now, mind you, this was extremely rude to ask. You don't talk to your father like that in that culture, and usually a father would have every right to smack his son upside the head for such impudence. But this father didn't. He didn't get angry at all. He simply said, "Hey, son, I'm still here, right? Why do you need your inheritance now?" But the young son insisted. "No, I want it now. I'm going out of town and I'm never coming back. So please just give me my inheritance so I can go do whatever I want with it." And so the father did. He divided his estate between them, giving each son half of what he owned, and with his new money in hand, the younger son set off for a faraway country. And there he began to waste his money on wild parties, drinking games, prostitutes, anything that made him feel good for a moment. But obviously that kind of lifestyle doesn't last very long when you're spending way more money than you're making. And sure enough, pretty soon that money ran out. At this point, our story takes a turn and we see the younger son wandering through the streets of a city, and it says that there was a terrible famine in that land. Now, where before he may have spent his money on alcohol, now he spends his time searching for scraps of food to eat. No longer hanging around with the other partygoers, he is now hanging around pigs. Yes, he is hanging around pigs, eating their slop, hoping that he could fill his belly and put off hunger for a little while longer. It gets worse, though. Verse 16 tells us that he would gladly have filled his belly with the pods that the pigs ate, but that wasn't allowed. Verse 17 tells us how bad things get. "What a terrible thing I've done," he says. "I, a Jew, am begging for food to eat. I'm off to my father's house. Even his servants are better off than I am. Day and night they have plenty of food to eat, and I'm out here starving. I'll go to my father and say, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants.'" Now, this is a beautiful part of the story because up until this point, we have only heard from the younger son. We know nothing about the father or the older son. But here, Luke gives us a glimpse into the heart of the younger son. And he shows us that although he is broken and ashamed, he does have faith. Despite everything he has done, he still believes that his father will forgive him if he humbles himself and asks nicely. So he turns around and goes back home. But listen to what happens next. Verse 19 tells us, "He was still a long way off when his father saw him, and his heart went out for him. And he ran to embrace him." And that's the key word, ran. He didn't just walk to meet him. He literally ran and embraced him and kissed him. Let me stop here for a second and imagine this for a moment. This is the father of this young man who just described himself as a horrible person, a sinner, a person who isn't worthy of being called his son anymore. And yet the father doesn't wait another second to run to him and hug him and kiss him. The moment he sees that his son is turning around and coming home, the father runs to meet him. Then, verse 20, "But the young man said, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am not worthy to be called your son.' But he, the father, said to his servants, 'Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. And bring the fattened calf. Kill it, and let's celebrate with a feast. For this son of mine was dead and has now returned to life. He was lost and is now found.' And they began to celebrate." Now, a few verses later, Luke writes, "Meanwhile, the older son came in. He too was a servant, having worked outside the house all day. When he heard music and celebration, he asked one of the servants what was going on. 'Look, I've worked all day,' he said, 'out in the fields with no complaint. Not once have I disobeyed your orders, yet never have I heard a word of praise from you.' 'My son,' the father said, 'you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. It is right that we should celebrate and be glad, for your brother was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' Let's take some time to really think about that passage. Our story begins with a father who is willing to give his sons their portion of the inheritance. Now, normally that wouldn't happen until after the father died. But this father says, "You know what? I trust you. Here's your money. Go do what you want with it." And then the younger son goes and wastes all of his money. He ends up homeless and hungry, having to beg for food. And this boy who begged for food is actually the main character in this story. That's who we're supposed to be focusing on. But Luke makes sure that we understand something. Throughout this whole time, the older brother is out working. He doesn't try to help his younger brother, nor does he tell their father what his brother has done. And yet when the younger son comes home, the older son is angry. Why is he angry? Because the father gave the younger son a robe and a ring and sandals, but he doesn't give him anything. He's angry because he has to watch the younger son receive these gifts that symbolize restoration. Now, I read this passage and I think this story is ultimately about grace, forgiveness, and celebrating when sinners come home. But I also can't help but notice that the older brother seems to think that he deserves a gift too. He's angry that the younger brother received a robe and a ring and sandals, but he doesn't get any. He wants something too. And I wonder, is this not exactly what many people want today? Do many people resent God because they feel like they deserve something from Him? Like they feel like if they do enough good things, then God owes them a reward? This is why I believe that God doesn't save people because they deserve it. He saves people because He loves them. And when people come home to God, He doesn't make them work harder or do more good things. He doesn't give them a list of rules to follow. Instead, He welcomes them home with open arms and washes their feet and puts on a robe and crowns them with a ring and gives them sandals and throws a party. And sometimes, those people who come home think that they deserve more. They think they deserve special treatment. And maybe that's how the older brother felt in this story. Maybe he thought he deserved something more because he never left. But the father says, "You know what? You're wrong. Everything I have is already yours. I want you to rejoice with me because your brother was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." Friends, God loves you. He sent His Son to die for you, and Jesus rose again so that you can rise with Him. If you know that you've wasted your life and you've strayed far away from God, I want you to know that there is nothing too far that God can't reach. There is nothing too messed up that Jesus can't fix. Come home to God today, and I promise you He will welcome you with open arms and wash your feet and put on a robe and crown you with a ring and give you sandals and throw a party. If you've been saved by the undeserved favor of God, I invite you to rejoice in the Lord today. Thank you for watching. Until next time, God bless.